Okay, I want to welcome everybody here. I've been talking for quite a while about this Satipatthana Sutta, and I've decided to talk about it kind of from a different perspective. And one of the things that I really do think you get out of doing a meditation practice and the things that are pointed out in the Satipatthana Sutta, or the four foundations of mindfulness, is how can we learn and grow? How can we change ourselves? And I want to start out with something that I said last week, but I heard a talk by Joseph Goldstein about what is meditation. And I want to repeat what I said. I think it's very important. I found it very helpful to me. But there are three aspects to meditation. One is mindfulness. And mindfulness is just the capability for us to be in the present moment, really experiencing what's going on, knowing what's going on, being aware of what we're aware of. That's mindfulness. So we observe what's going on. The second thing is about how we relate to that experience. A lot of people can meditate for a long period of time, love it, do it on a regular basis, helps you go to sleep, you're concentrated, you feel good. People just focusing in the present moment and doing meditation can get to the point where they have blissful feelings just meditating. And if you just go to stage one, that's great. And that's what you'll get out of that. The second thing we can do that there's less focus on and less people talking about is when we notice what's happening in that present moment, how do we relate to that experience? We might hear a dog barking, and we could have a negative response to that. Oh, it's annoying. I hate the sound of it. The dog barking might have been your dog's been lost for a week, and that same sound will be something that makes you happy. So everything that happens, all the experiences we have, we tend to relate to, whether it's sound, words people say to us. The stock market goes up. Those words might make us feel good. The stock market going down, how we relate to it, we feel bad. Third thing that can happen, so the second thing is being aware of how we relate to those experiences. See a process going. This happens, I relate this way. This happens, I relate another way. When we see what's happening and how we relate, we can get some insight and wisdom. And for me, in the last, when I spoke about it last time, I was at a meditation. I was told not to move. My nose itched, and I got really angry. And how did I relate to my nose itching? I got angry. And at some point during the meditation, while I was angry, I was able to step back. It's just my nose itching. I'm acting like I'm exaggerating, and I'm taking it more seriously than it needs to be taken. So it's how do you relate to those experiences? There is a primary example of cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapy is based on the fact that we interpret things based on who we are, not based on what's happening in the world. And an example of that is you're walking down the street, you see someone you know fairly well, you wave and say hello to them, they completely ignore you. Okay, so what do we observe? We observe the person doesn't wave back. How do we relate to that? Some people will say, well, what did I do wrong? I must have done something wrong. Why aren't they waving to me? Someone else might say, well, they're real snobs. They're not waving back to me. I'm not going to talk to them again. We don't know. That person may have just had a horrible experience happen and they're just dazed and not looking and not paying attention. But based on what things happen, we respond based on how we are. And so it's helpful to do self-reflection, and the objective observer is what we are cultivating when we do a meditation practice. It cultivates mindfulness. We're step one, we're aware of what's happening. When we're meditating, if we choose to, we can notice how we relate. And if we take it one step further, we'll get some insight. The first step is mindfulness. And for several weeks, for a fairly long period, I've been talking about the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And every one of those foundations are really, to me, they're wake-up calls. For example, the first is the body. If you are mindful and paying attention to your body will tell you something. Your muscles are tense, something's bothering you. The body also paying attention, that is in the first stage of mindfulness, of contemplation. That can be a grounding force for you. And also, if we pay attention to our body, just paying attention to our body, doing a body scan or watching our breath can lead to those relaxing states, those peaceful states that make us feel better or blissful. The second foundation of mindfulness is just noticing a feeling, positive or negative. And the example I gave of the dog, as soon as you notice, oh, I'm having a negative reaction to the dog, you've woken up, and you might do something about it. Say, hey, it's just the dog barking. Or I notice my nose is itching and I'm having a negative reaction, waking me up. But I might not get woken up at that point, or you might not get woken up. And in both cases, what can happen is once you have a negative feeling about the dog barking, you'll notice hatred and anger. So if you can pay attention to your mind and your mind states, you'll be aware that you've been triggered. And that opens you up to pausing, getting insight, noticing how you related, and getting some wisdom. That's the way I related to it didn't help me. It's not helpful. And the fourth foundation, we covered the factors of awakening in an earlier talk, but hindrances or others, something else. The factors of awakening are the things that we can do, like be curious, be mindful, have energy. Those are some of the factors of awakening. These are the things that can pull you out from your anger, pull you out from your reactivity. Hindrances are the things that will drag you down. And that's what I was going to talk about today. But in this context of we can learn whenever we get triggered, whenever we get awoken to what's going on, if we think about it from an objective standpoint, what we're doing and why we're doing it, we ourselves can gain wisdom. And I'd like to make a point now. It is important that we are the ones that notice that we are the problem. If, for example, I saw someone was meditating and their nose itched, I can't be the one to say, it's just something minor to you, your nose itched, or the dog barked, that's minor, you shouldn't really bother you. They have to understand it. You can't belittle when people feel something, they feel it. But if you study this and heard about it, maybe you'll be able to see for yourself the situations that you're not serving, your tentative response is just making the situation worse. So in the Satipatthana Sutta, the 4 foundations, these are the 5 hindrances. Ill will, and ill will also encompasses hatred and anger, sensory desire. The first five hindrances, ill will and anger, that's from aversion. That's from the feeling tone of negativity is what triggers that. Sensory desire is a positive feeling, and you want something, you want more and more of it. Restlessness and worry usually is a negative trigger has caused that. Doubt you're not sure of, and sloth and torpor is the fifth of the hindrances. When these are triggered, the fact that they're enumerated here, it's kind of a reminder, whether you're meditating or whether you're just walking around, when you notice, oh, I have ill will, I'm angry, that's when you can say, how am I relating to experience, and question how it's done. I found that these lists are pretty clear. You can say, so what? This is things you can think about. But if you start studying these, memorizing the lists, I notice every time I watch TV, as soon as the TV's over, I just seem to sit in some kind of stupor afterwards, just not being able to get up. Or in the morning, after the alarm goes off, I'm in this stage of sloth and torpor. And since I've heard that this is one of the hindrances, since I've studied it, it's something I can enumerate. It is fun to me watching how throughout the day, every one of these things occur to me. Doubt, often when I teach, I'm worried, am I going to say the right things? I get nervous about it. Well, doubt can be really helpful. If I'm worried about giving a talk and it being successful or being authentic, maybe it'll cause me to work harder and prepare better. And that's what doubt has done. When doubt can be a negative experience is when I'm so afraid, don't have confidence, and I'm afraid to talk. And my fear is blocking me from being able to continue. And with all of these, I want to point out a couple things that I think is very important. First of all, the goal is just to be aware that all of these five hindrances will occur. If you make it the goal to never have it, you'll be miserable. It's part of being human. What I have seen is over time, if you are aware of it, over time, there's less and less and less energy. But for me, every one of these things pop up. They pop up on a daily basis. And it's real important that you're just aware that it happens, and also something else. And that's why I entitled this Learning and Growing. When you're aware something is going on, when any of these are triggered, you can say, great news, I'm going to learn something. Why did I relate to this situation that way? Why am I having sloth and torpor? And I'll give an example of one of the things that has helped me. I like eating snacks, and I like chocolate. But I've noticed, when do I do it? I'm aware I have this desire pops up. That's one of those. The desire is for food. When I notice that, what I have noticed is that if I'm bored or if I'm frustrated, that's when I think of food. That insight has helped me. I can't stop it all the time, but a lot of times when I'm frustrated or bored and I want to get something to eat, I say, I'm doing this out of frustration. I'm not doing it out of hunger. And I can think of something that I absolutely need to do, put all my attention to it, and I forget about it, and the hunger goes away. So awareness the goal is not to stop these. These will happen. If we're learning and growing, we can't stop them, but we can disidentify from them. And Joseph Goldstein uses terminology. There's anger there. And I'm an objective observer, observing the anger that's in Stan. And that anger is not serving Stan well. You can disidentify from it. It is really different. And I hope some of you have seen situations where all of a sudden, you're angry about a red light and then say, oh, I shouldn't, you realize you're angry and you can say, it's not worth being angry about. And I believe in one of the past classes, people have mentioned that example because it's an example I use. And the real goal is you're going to be angry, but don't get angry at the anger. Accept that. You're going to have desire to do something you want people to, and have equanimity. Oh, I want chocolate. I can't have it. That's okay. And then don't be mad when you don't have equanimity. It seems all of these things, once you have it, if you're angry and you get angry at yourself for being angry, or you can be angry at yourself for having desire or be angry, but the goal is just to be aware of it. I want to give a quote from Wayne Dwyer. When you change the way that you look at things, the things that you look at change. And if we can look at every one of these 5 hindrances, whenever they occur, is what can I learn from it? Not I'm a bad meditator or a bad person. And when you are angry, what can you learn? What can you do different? Now, right now, I'm going to talk about something I think is a little bit outside of the Satipatthana Sutta, outside the 4 foundations. But I've been leading this class for a long time, and we've read a lot of very good books. And anger is the first of those 5 hindrances, and it's a big one. One of the things from a practical standpoint of having a better life, a more enjoyable life, is there have been techniques and approaches that people have used to help them deal with anger in a constructive manner. I assure you, whenever anybody in this group gets angry, they're usually angry for a good reason. We don't live in a world of saints. We don't live in a perfect world. And if you get angry, I think there's a real good chance that you have a legitimate reason for being angry. But we've studied things that are practical approaches in handling anger. First of all, before going to the practical things, what my tendency is, and maybe for some of you also, is when someone does something that gets you angry, they've attacked you, you attack back. Someone is arrogant and self-righteous, you're arrogant and self-righteous back. Someone's mean to you, I want to be mean to them. And I think if you watch dialogues on movies, and in reality, that's what happens. Someone does something negative, the next person escalates, and you got some people, that will be their default behavior, be just as aggressive back. Some people suppress it and get ulcers. They're afraid to speak up, and they'll get ulcers. It's not good either. Something that some people will do, and I think it's one of the things I notice in myself, is ruminate. particularly when I've suppressed it, I'm more likely to ruminate. These are natural responses to it. But we've studied a book in the past called Nonviolent Communication. When someone says something negative to you, the instincts are going to take you to either suppression or attack. But we've studied nonviolent communication, and if someone has said something negative to you, what you can do, instead of attacking them or suppressing them, try and get a dialogue going, which isn't something, you're upset with me, you said this to me, I want to understand more why you feel that way. And actually, the first thing in nonviolent communications, when someone does something and you feel attacked, instead of saying to the person, you shouldn't say that, you're mean, you're whatever, it's, I feel hurt when you said that. If you respond that way, then it opens up, the person might respond saying, hey, I didn't realize I'd hurt you. I'm sorry I said that. Instead of you suppressing it or attacking it, it deflates the whole thing. So it's a good strategy for effective communications, is to just tell someone how they feel. Now, if you tell someone how they feel and they attack you even further, maybe it's a warning sign to you. You ought to set boundaries or limit time with the person. But sometimes it gets a dialogue going. When there's a conflict between someone, they want A, you want B, you can talk to them in a constructive way and look for a win-win. I know what you want, I know what I want, I respect what you need, let me do it. But my point is that there are practical ways to respond when you are triggered. And if you want to learn and grow, first of all, you have to have mental discipline to be aware that you've been triggered, the desire to learn from that, to question if your instinctive response is the right thing to do. So let me go on. And I'm going to just leave the slides up that I've shown. So if you'd like to review. Okay, let me go. These are also some important points I wanted to make, particularly about anger. Anger can be a helpful motivating force or destructive force. And that's where wisdom comes in. Sometimes when you are angry, if you think about what's going on, you may have been violated and you may need to stand up. And it's probably best if you don't suppress it. But your body is telling you something. If you can be angry about the injustice in the world and you wind up doing something, you've seen someone treated poorly, you can get up and do something to help. But if you're just ruminating about it, or if you get on the attack and start a war, that's a problem. So anger isn't bad in itself. It's how you relate to it and what you do. 2, there are some people that will always respond with aggressiveness. Some people will always suppress. And sometimes suppression is appropriate. Sometimes aggressiveness is appropriate. And if you're not switching back and forth, you're not really absorbing it, you're acting out of childhood training, family of origin. When you were a child, to survive with some people survive in their family of origin by whenever their parents tell them to do something, they do it, they shut up, they know they can't speak up, they're afraid of authority figures. Some people survive in the family of origin where the parents tell them to do something, they throw a temper tantrum, and their parents do what they want. Parents tell them something else, they throw another temper tantrum. And then when they go on a job, a boss tells them to do something they don't want to, and they throw a temper tantrum and they lose their job because they've been trained to do things. That's the way they survived in childhood. And mindfulness is a skill that helps wake you up and give you a chance. I'm angry. What's a constructive response? And it's mindfulness. It's a wake-up bell. I am angry. And you can learn by trial and error. Sometimes you should suppress, sometimes you shouldn't. Some people, one way will work and it won't with other people. And it's a skill learned over time. And in modern day psychology, emotional intelligence is our ability to know how to relate to people, to how to pick the right tool when we need to address an issue. But these are practical things that I've learned about through psychology. I wouldn't attribute it to Buddhism, but Buddhism is really about having compassion for yourself and for the other person and really trying to find a middle way. It's not about being a doormat for people, and it's not taking advantage of them. But when you have working with people, there's a middle ground. And the other aspect of Buddhism is, while this whole cycle is going on, to just have a sense of well-being in spite of what's going on. And this takes discernment. And how do you get discernment? How do you know when the right thing to do? It's trial and error. And that's how you gain wisdom. You don't instinctively know. And for me, I've seen cases where I've swung one way too far or the other way too far. And I'm getting more and more of trying to assess the individual I'm dealing with, assess how important it is, and finding a middle way. So the spiritual journey, the meditation journey, is really about changing ourselves. Yesterday, I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today, I'm wise, so I'm changing myself. And, when we can take personal responsibility, that's how we're going to grow. And another quote that I think relates back to is, perfection is not a prerequisite for anything but pain. And what I see as a tendency with people on a spiritual journey or on the meditation path is, oh, I'm never going to be angry. I'm never going to be upset. I'm always going to be focused. And you get frustrated trying to be perfect. This isn't about being perfect. It's about loving yourself and others, and we're all imperfect. Okay, what I'd like to do now is take you through a guided meditation. And the first part of it will be just focus and concentration to get us to relax. And what I'd like you to do is find a comfortable position with your feet on the floor. If you're seated, you may want to have your feet on the floor, your back straight. It may be helpful to gently close your eyes. Or if you'd like to, you could lie down. Or if you'd like to, you could stand up. Or you could sit on the floor cross-legged. And now what I'd like you to do is begin to count to 3 as you breathe in, and count to 3 as you breathe out. And then slowly increase the count. Don't go beyond 10. And don't get to the point where you feel that you're stressed. But as you increase the count, breathe longer, slower, and deeper. And what I'd like you to do now, find the place on your body where you feel your breath most vividly. For some people, it could be in the nostrils. For some people, it's in the navel. For some people, it's watching the chest go in and out. Continue to count. Continue to breathe deeply. But get a felt sense of the breath wherever you feel it most vividly. Now drop the counting. Continue to breathe long, slow, and deep. and just have that felt sense of the breath. There may be a tendency to keep counting. That's okay. If you feel more comfortable counting, continue. But if you can, slowly let go of the counting. Now just breathe normally, but continue to have the felt sense of the breath. Eventually, there'll be a wave of experience. It could be a thought. It could be an emotion. When that happens, gently bring your focus back to your breath. This is concentration, keeping all of your attention just on the felt sense of the breath. And when your mind wanders, coming back to the felt sense. Now, the next time a thought or an emotion arises, be aware of it. Just spend a moment thinking, is this emotion helpful? What can I learn from this? How can I respond with compassion to this myself and to others? What is an action that I can do that'll be constructive and wise and helpful? And then go back to your breath. That's insight meditation, using the thoughts and emotion for you to learn and for you to grow. Smile. Repeat to yourself, thank you, thank you, thank you. And think about all the things you're grateful for and the people you're grateful to. And when you're ready, stretch out. And if you'd like to, rub your hands together and get some energy flowing. You may want to cover your eyes with your hands. And then slowly open your eyes. Well, I want to thank everyone who attended today. Thank you for your input in the discussions. And I wish you all a happy week. And again, we're going to miss the 23rd. But we'll meet again on the 30th. Again, thank you. Take care and have a good day.